And see, the problem here is that the word now suggests that if God's going to do a new thing, we ought to be seeing it now. We ought to be seeing it right now. However, the text actually says, now it shall sprout. Now it shall sprout. You remember when Jesus taught on this whole idea? You see, this is the Old Testament. Jesus taught on this idea in Mark chapter 4 and verse 28. He put it like this: first the blade, then the head, then the full grain in the head. Anybody who knows anything about agriculture, horticulture, if you know anything about planting, there are certain things that you put in there, and it's in a, if you deal with a sprout. I used to grow sprouts as a little boy. My daddy would eat sprouts, and we didn't go to the store to buy them. We raised them ourselves. We would put seeds on 3 different trays, and we poured water on them every day. They grew in darkness. I harvested them underneath the cabinet in the house without any soil. It just needed water and darkness. And 3 days later, what started out as a seed wound up as a sprout. It was sprouting. The sprouting began the moment that I poured the water. But I didn't see the sprout until 3 days later. And I had 3 trays full of sprouts 3 days later that grew in the dark where I couldn't even see what was happening. Can you imagine that just because you can't see, this is why God says, now it'll spring forth. You don't have to see it in order to know that that thing is germinating. It is growing. It is unfolding even when you cannot see it. I'm just telling you, when God has something new that he wants to do in your life, he will begin to speak. He will begin to speak prophetically. You'll be grumbling because of the job that you have, and God, by the power of the Holy Ghost, will have you on somebody's mind. Somebody will be considering you. Are you listening to me? You don't have to see it. Somebody will be discussing you, considering you while you're on a job in a dead-end position, and they're getting ready to promote you. They're looking for an idea just like what God has placed in you. They're looking for the talents and the skills and the ability that you bring to the table. They are looking for you, and you don't even realize this thing because nobody has called your phone yet. But God's got this thing sprouting. That's where some things are actually talking. The young man who's serving now is my business administrator. Before I ever hired him, a prophet came from Nigeria and spoke to him. And while he was not even a deacon in the church, and he said, your pastor is considering you for a position. And surely I was, and I had never called him. And I had never talked to him. And shortly thereafter, I gave him a telephone call and offered him a job, and he's been working with me for a number of years now. It began in the realm of the spirits where the gods began to speak prophetically and say, your pastor is considering you. You will be surprised when God is doing something when you cannot see it and you don't even understand it. But he says, now it shall spring forth. There's a power that is in the seed. Everything that tree is ever going to be is locked into the power of the seed. And he says, now it shall spring forth. It's in the process of sprouting. It's in the process of sprouting. Touch somebody and say, I'm getting ready to have my coming out party. Isn't it amazing for you to be able to sprout, and become everything that God called you to be? Don't look at yourself right now and surmise what God can do in you. I told you there is absolutely nothing in a caterpillar that tells it one day that it's going to be a butterfly. How would you ever know that you're going to sprout wings one day and change your whole mode of transportation? You're getting ready to travel on a different way, a different means in life. Now God says, behold, I will do a new thing. You might look like you have to be encapsulated in something that looks like death, but when God says, behold, check it out, sit back, check it out. Because I'm going to do something brand new in your life. And the way you've been getting around in that hoopty. He says, behold, because I'm getting ready to change your method of transportation. How you've been in your transportation, how you are in your communication. God says, I'm getting ready. Behold, I will do a new thing. I will do a new thing. I will do a new thing.